When I was growing up, I actually hated reading. Like, I hated it. I mean, like, when I'm about 9 years old, I realized that the way that you get information is by actually retaining information. Like, I knew that, but I didn't want to do the work. You had book reports. Everything I wanted to do had, you know, reading was a part of it. I liked learning, but I didn't like reading. I liked baseball. In order to do baseball, you had to have good grades and you had to do these book reports. I was good at skimming a book, telling what it was about, because I read the beginning, the middle, and the end. I got a general main idea, boom. One time I got in trouble because they realized that I definitely didn't, you know, do my part. But I really just didn't like reading. I didn't put the time in. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. I just didn't put the practice in. And I think a little bit of it was me being a bit intimidated by it, I think. Just being intimidated by reading. But I really like learning. I always like learning. I always get inquisitive. So I really fell in love with reading when I was 14. I was in 9th grade. I had a really good English teacher. But we had this process where essentially we had to read a book and write a letter, kind of like a journal entry, to our teacher about the book. So it was kind of like a book report, but it came in the form of a letter. I'm telling you what I experienced. It kind of gave you some prompts, but largely you had kind of free range outside of those prompts to present it how you wanted to. It made me love reading because the more than I love reading, as people would know if you know me, it's the analysis. You get what I'm saying? It's not just like when I teach folks, I talk about reading for analysis rather than reading for observation. I contend, and I had to learn this over time, if you decide that what's most important for you is to retain the information, to regurgitate, then you're really not learning. You're literally saying what the author said. And if you're crafty, you say it in different ways. I really loved that, and that's when it got real for me then. By the time that I got to college, I really loved reading. I'm picking up books on my own now, right? Like before, and when I'm in high school, I like reading. I have a choice of what books I can get. But I had to get some of these choices. Now I'm buying books off the bookshelf. I'm getting books out of the library at school and the local public libraries. I'm just getting books because I want to read. I recognize that now what I have to do is I am excavating at this point. If I'm learning from a teacher, I heard their analysis. I got it secondhand from the author, third hand from the professor, the teacher, and if I don't do the work, that's where it stops. If I can get closer to it by going to where the author went to, or just reading what the author I have a better chance of being able to get through some of the filter, or filter through some of the kind of different levels and hands that the knowledge comes through. So that was kind of my thinking when I'm like 18, 19. That's where I fell in love with reading and writing at the same time. It was like I had these ideas. I always like analysis. I want to write it down, and so that's what I started doing, writing ideas on paper, writing term papers for school. And then after that, just writing, writing curriculum. After college, grad school, all of that, I'm writing curriculum, I'm writing articles, I'm writing essays. Now I'm in a position where not only do I love reading, I like sharing and teaching with folks. And I heard something before that like, you retain information better, and you can have a better understanding of information by teaching something to somebody that you have either learned or are learning, So that's kind of how it is for me. But I think what makes me a good teacher is that I don't want to hoard information. I want to share it. I want to make it, valuable. So just like talking about knowledge of self or, David Walker's Appeal, like anything I read, like, I gotta tell you, got a quick minute, and I've talked to you, I talked to other people in that same way. And so I just like learning. I like engaging with ideas, and more importantly, which I think makes me a good organizer, I like to materialize those ideas. It's like experimentation for me, and that's what I like about reading. So I'm like presented with an idea, I want to examine it. Do I agree with it? Do I not agree with it? Do I agree with parts of it? Am I vehemently in disagreement? Why am I in disagreement? Why am I in agreement? And then, like, whatever comes from that process, that synthesis that comes from it, it's like, what am I going to do with it now? It's not enough to just have information. What am I going to do with it? How is that going to fashion my life? How is that going to change my organizing? How is that going to shift how I talk to my, to my partner, to my children? How does that shift how I walk, literally walk, or how I move? So that's kind of like, I just fell in love with learning, and I realized that reading was one important part of that, and writing was a part of it.